Hi, this is Karen Downey. This will be a short video discussing the colon. When you place a colon into a sentence, there will always be two spaces after it. So in example, we took the first choice given to us, colon, and then there's a space there and a space there, to have our checks automatically deposited. Next sentence, Dave forgot to do the following before leaving the house, colon, two spaces. Okay, what I'll often do to make sure I've got two spaces is I'll put my cursor right after the colon and then see if I can arrow over another space, and that will ensure that I've got two spaces after the colon. It's also important to know when to capitalize the first word after a colon. If what follows the colon is a complete sentence, in other words, if it's got a subject and a verb, then you need to capitalize the first word after the colon. Okay, the implications made by the salesperson were very specific. So now what follows the colon here is a complete sentence. If we buy this product, we will be sorry. Okay, so I have to make sure that I capitalize that first word. In the next example, I've taken steps to call the following employees: Esmeralda Juarez and Aaliyah Jefferson. This is capitalized after the colon because it is a proper noun. So that's the other reason for capitalizing after a colon, if you have a proper noun, a proper adjective, or the pronoun I. There are only 3 colon rules. One of the colon rules colon 3, that is actually split off into 2 slides for purposes of discussion. And you'll see that when we get there. But the 3 are: a colon should be used after a salutation, and I'll go into what a salutation is, and there are 2 types. The second colon rule is a colon should be used to introduce material from a written or a printed source. Okay, and then the third is colons are to be used when introduced by the following words. If you have in your sentence as follows, the following, this or these, or when you are aware from the reading of the sentence that something is about to follow. Okay, so colon rule 1. So this is when you put a colon after a formal salutation. A formal salutation is often the heading of a formal letter. So if you're writing a letter to a company or a deputy is issuing a subpoena, these will have very formal salutations. And in a salutation, formal salutation that is, they will appear at the left margin, so there's no indentation. They're also followed by the colon. The first word and all the important words are capped, so you have dear and sir. And then in the next one, to whom, it, may, concern. All of these are going to be capped. Dear Mr. Wilson, dear Mr. and Wilson will be capped. The other type of salutation is called an informal salutation. These are the ones that you'll be using in your court reporting transcripts. We also say that they're in running text. Running text means that they're not set up as a formal heading. For the informal salutations, these are indented and they're followed by a comma as opposed to a colon. The informal salutation, you only cap the first word and any proper names, and also the court. You would cap the court because you're addressing the judge. So in the first example, we cap ladies, but then not gentlemen and not jury. And notice that it's followed by a comma. And then you continue on the same line. That's where the running text comes in. You follow on the same line with what follows the salutation. In the next example, we've capped may, but not it, please. We do cap the court. We cap Mr. Foreman, but not members of the jury. Okay, no caps on that. And again, follow it with a comma. Colon rule 2 says that you will introduce material from a written or printed source, meaning that you will precede that written or printed material with a colon. Now, that is different from introducing quoted material that is spoken. You use a comma to introduce a spoken quote, but for a printed or written quote, you will use the colon. And again, just to emphasize, 2 spaces after the colon. So first example, doctor, in chapter 5, page 3, you talk about a patient's speech pattern, colon, okay, put the colon there. Then of course you're going to have 2 spaces, and you'll open the quote and then have your quoted material. The most common speech impairment is dysphagia, period, close quote. Don't worry now about where the quotes go and where the punctuation with the quotes go. Just know that for this quoted material that is printed or from a written source, you will introduce it with a colon. Mr. Jones, comma, I would like to read to you what you said in your deposition of August 23, 2010, colon, and again 2 spaces, open quote, I was not present at the bar when the fight broke out. All right, now for colon rule 3, this is a really important one and one that you will use a lot in transcription. And there are 2 parts to this. The first part says you're going to use a colon when you have these words in your sentence. As follows, the following, this, or these. When any of these show up in your sentence and something follows, you will need the colon. So the main idea was this. So there's my clue word there, this. If we took one car, comma, then we could split the gas. So you need the colon. The next one, the doctor told me the following, colon, that I should stay in bed until the swelling went down and I should take 2 Motrin every 4 hours. And then the last one, our main concerns were these, colon, who was going to work during the night and how would patient care improve. And then now we're going to go on to part B. Okay, the second part of colon rule 3 is that when you're aware from the reading of the sentence that something is to follow, you use the colon. In this case, if you can mentally insert the word namely into the sentence and the sentence makes sense, put a colon. Now, unfortunately, this slide got a little messed up, so I'm going to cross these out and I'm going to X those out. Okay, the tabs didn't work for some reason. So, his dad always stressed one thing, namely, I can mentally insert namely in there, and then being prepared answers with the one thing that his dad always stressed. I only had one priority at the time, namely, eating right now. The officer's concern was apparent. Who was going to cover him? Okay, so if you can insert that word namely, then you want to use the colon. Another thing is what precedes the colon must be a complete sentence. Okay, each of these was a complete sentence. And you're aware from the reading of those sentences that something is about to follow. This slide is pretty self-explanatory, and it's just talking about what happens at the end of the sentence. If you have a colon in your sentence somewhere, what piece of punctuation do you put at the very end of the sentence? So if what follows the colon is a statement, the ending punctuation will be a period. If what follows the colon is a question, the ending punctuation will be a question mark. If what follows the colon is a word, a phrase, or a dependent clause, then you will place a period at the end of the sentence, not a comma. Oftentimes, a person will want to sort of put bullet points to what they're talking about. We call these numbered or lettered listings, and they'll actually say a number or a set of numbers, or they'll actually say letters. Sometimes they'll even mix them up because remember, we're dealing with someone speaking extemporaneously, and what will happen is they'll start off by saying 1, blah, 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 2, blah, 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 and then they'll flip to third. So instead of using regular numbers, they'll use ordinal numbers. And it can be a bit confusing for the court reporter to transcribe. So let's look at the couple of ways that you can transcribe these numbered or lettered listings. So first of all, an important point here. Not always, but many times these listings will use a colon. Okay, one time that they don't is you will not use the colon after a linking verb. And remember, your linking verbs are is, am, are, was, were, be, been, being. You want to surround the numbers with commas if you write the numbers out in words. You will use the parentheses if you use digits when the speaker says 1, 2, or 3. If the speaker says letters, A, la, 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 B, da, 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 C, da, 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 then you want to surround the letters with parentheses. So it will look like that. And we use a capital letter, A, B. Okay, you don't want to do A and then one parenthesis. The reason I like writing the numbers out in words is because you will write the number out, O-N-E, and it will be followed by a comma. That now gives me a comma within one of my elements. So then I separate all of my elements with semicolons. It's sort of an automatic thing. I don't have to analyze each and every element to decide, oh, do I need a comma here between all of these elements in my series, or do I need a semi after each of the elements in my series? So here are the two ways that you may transcribe a numbered listing. In the first example, the numbers are written in digits, and notice they are surrounded by parentheses. Okay, so what I have to do here is look at each individual element. I have 3 different elements. I have to look at each one and say, oh, do I have a comma in this first one? No. Do I have a comma in the second one? No. Do I have a comma in the third one? No. So that means that I will separate my listings with commas. Now, the example that I like, or this is the way I like to transcribe numbers in a numbered listing, is by writing them out in a word. When I write these numbers out in a word, I have to surround those numbers with commas. Okay. Now, those commas automatically give me internal punctuation in each of my elements in the series. So then I would put semis to separate the elements. So I want to bring your attention to a couple of things in this slide. First of all, these are numbered listings with no colon. There's no indication for a colon in these, and the reason is because what's up front, in front of the numbered listing, is not a complete sentence. Okay, they haven't completed their thought yet. The next thing is I want to bring your focus to the fact that you have to surround the numbers. When there's no piece of punctuation there, you have to put a comma. You have to treat these as parentheticals, so they must be set off or surrounded with commas. And this one right here is one that's always forgotten. you need to put a comma after the and as well as after the 3. Just like we surrounded this one up here, we also have to surround this one down here with commas. The 2 we don't have to because it's preceded by the semi, but we do have to follow it with a comma. Well, unfortunately on this slide a little bit of it got cut off, but I think you'll be able to see as much as you need here. So these are examples of numbered listings that will take the colon. So notice that up front we've sort of got a complete sentence. We needed the student to state the following. So there's one reason, the following, that kicks in the need for the colon. So this top one is an example of where you have a series where the numbers are done with parentheses. And again, this is not my preferred way. It's fine for you, but to me it just makes you have to look at each and every one of the individual elements before you can decide, oh, do commas go here or do semis? So what I would have to do is come in here if I use the numbers and read all of this. 1, that he didn't need help with his homework every night. No comma in that one. 2, that his parents would help him if he asked for it. No comma in that one. 3, that he would make sure his homework. Okay, now I don't see any commas in any of the elements, so I'll go back and put commas here and here. However, by writing out the numbers in words, and by virtue of writing them out, I have to surround them with commas. Okay, then I know automatically, as soon as I put that guy there, I know that I'm going to need semis to separate all of my elements. This is semi rule 2. Okay, and I just think it's easier. As soon as I put that first comma, then as soon as I get to the end of the first element, I put a semi and move on. I don't have to examine each and every one of them. Again, don't forget that comma. And that is the end of this video.